these words resonate within you. God is, I am, we are, all is. God is, I am, we are, all is. And we reach out. We reach out into those concerns that each one of us has. We reach out to those that we love and we hold in the awareness of their true wholeness. And hold them in the comfort, in the healing light of healing what needs to be healed within them. Healing what needs to be healed within us. And we reach out to those that may be difficult for us to hold that healing, loving energy. Allow your mind to go to those that you are most afraid of, that you are most angry with. Pray for those that seem to be your enemy. Our master teacher said that because we all are willing to pray for those we love. But let us pray for those that in our consciousness appear to be the enemy. Let us know that they are divine. They have that light within them. Let us hold that light radiating in a way that at this moment they may be totally unaware of. Let us know that truth for them. For we are one. For the darkness that is out there is also representative of the darkness that we may hold within ourselves. And we let that light shine and radiate. And once again, we radiate the light. We know we are one with the light. And we send it out far beyond this planet, out into the universe, beyond our imagination, knowing that we are all one. And so it is. Amen. Take some deep breaths. Look around. Multiply everybody by 2 or 3. Because so many are not with us today for just a variety of reasons. Some of them lovely, wonderful reasons because they're off going to visit family. Others for reasons that are not quite so. Having the health issues and challenges, and so holding them in that divine energy, knowing that truth for them, and being so grateful that we can be here. And so grateful that Amy is here. Amy is so much more than your voice, which we love and we appreciate, but it is your very presence and the energy that you bring. So thank you, because Amy has been having some difficulties, and thank you so much. We are blessed. And we are blessed. So the energy, so many times listening to people talking about, why do I come? Why do I come to this group? In Unity, there's no requirement that you show up at church. You don't get any greater blessings because you're here from us, from me, from the divine. You do get lots of blessings from each other, from the energy that sometimes, just walking into a space that you are, when you walk into the space that there is something special, and so you respond in a way that you don't even really consciously do that. So many, many blessings for us all to be here this morning. So today, and I don't know whether it made it into the bulletin or not, because Lucy called me the other day and she said, "Carol, do you know what your talk title is?" And no, Lucy, I don't have a clue. So a lot of times when I pray and in our classes, I'll talk about, God and I have this ongoing conversation, and I'll say, okay, it's time. I need to get busy because it takes me a while to put together whatever it is that I want to say. Sometimes it's a work in progress, but sometimes the last pieces don't come together until, on occasion, it's Sunday morning when I get up and I'm looking over, okay, this is what I already have down, and something says, oh, do this, or rearrange that. So as I, said, okay, what am I doing? And I was thinking about where we've been, the path that we've taken, and I thought, lost and found in translation. You know, we've been doing a lot with translations. So if you've been here the last week, you all got a handout with all the different translations of the Lord's Prayer. In various classes, we have been talking about the use of words, whether we're using masculine pronouns or feminine pronouns, or we're saying God or we're saying Father. And so we've been talking about how do we translate those things for ourselves. So one of the quotes that I discovered from one of my favorite, I have to say, not my favorite rabbi, I've got several favorite rabbis right now, but one that I've met several times, Rabbi Rami Shapiro, says, God is real. Everything we say about God is made up. So think about that. So if I use the word God, God is real, but everything we say about God is made up. Now, one of my favorite verses, so the first Analect, which is a verse, of the Tao Te Ching says, the Tao, which is just Chinese for God, that can be talked about is not the true Tao. So God that can be talked about is not the true God. The name that can be named is not the true name. So if we take that all in and say, okay, here's all of these words that we use, and here's what is meaningful to me, but it doesn't ever begin to touch what that allness is. And when we bring that into our awareness, then sometimes maybe translation becomes easier. So we want to think about, because it happens a lot, and it probably happens more in the South than it does in other areas of the country, but people are more prone to talk about religion and ask what church you go to and are you saved and all of these kinds of things, and to say, and you know, our loved ones, when we have conversations, and how do we deal with that? How does it come into us? You know, when somebody says something and uses, oh, I've gone so far past that, are you a sinner, or we're all sinners, or, all of, how do I take that in? How do I take it in and retranslate it for myself? When somebody is asking me those kinds of questions, do I get angry because they're asking it, or can I shift my perspective and say, wow, they care? Whether they care on an impersonal level or it's somebody that's close, they care. So we begin to shift how we hear and how we listen. So last Sunday afternoon I had just this wonderful experience, and it was so wonderful that I was feeling really guilty after I got out that I didn't specifically stand up and invite you and encourage you to attend with me. It was the Week of Christian Unity service that was held yesterday afternoon. But in my midst of feeling guilty because I had such an amazing experience, I realized if I had invited you and several had said, yes, we'll come, I would have sent you to one church, and it was really at a different church. So when I got to the wrong church, I went, oh, okay, it's the other one. And I knew how to get there. But if you had gotten there, you'd have gone, what? There's nobody here. What's going on? So I let go of my guilt. But what was so amazing about church and why I went, so the Week of Christian Unity service is not one that I normally attend because it is bringing so it's a big deal for most denominations to bring the Presbyterians and the Episcopalians and the Baptists all together to be able to worship together in a way of not feeling divided by their processes. But this was also the first time that we were deliberately doing a combined service with the black churches from North Huntsville and the white churches from Southeast Huntsville. So I felt it was really important to me to be able to show up for that. And was I blessed? Because I did. And it took me a while to realize, because it was a pretty large church. It is Union Hill Primitive Baptist Church. The other one that I went to wrong was Union Chapel. And I don't know if they're Primitive Baptist or one of the others. And they're on the same road. It's like Unity and Unitarian, which one are you going to? But the energy of the people. So it's a big church, and the audience wasn't packed, but it was very, very comfortably full and very mixed, very mixed. It was probably 50-50, black and white. So that combination really worked together. When you looked at the platform, the speakers and the people who were going to be involved was, half and half, and there was women on each side of that also, so it was, and there was different ages. There were some that were a little bit younger than others, some older ones, so it was really a genuine kind of coming together process. So that was the first feeling there. Then as we got into the service, and it was very much using Christian language in and everything, but I realized I wasn't having any problem whatsoever of allowing those words to be translated within me. As the words seem to lead us outward to that divine, well, that's okay. That's where they are in that moment. And this was happening. I wasn't even thinking about it. It wasn't until I looked back and realized this translate. I can worship and see that divine, from within myself. It just happens naturally, and it came out. And there was just wonderful speakers and things going on. And then at the end, so the other thing, the pastor of that church, Dr. Oscar Montgomery, so he was sitting, and I was sitting in a way that I could see him, and that man could not sit still. His foot was always tapping, and he was chair dancing, and the choir was singing, and he'd do this, and sometimes when the choir would sing, he'd stand up, and it wasn't a nervous energy. It was this wonderful energy, and so if there's somebody speaking, and he'd lean into it, and so there was just all of this going on. And then at the very end, so he stood up and did his concluding remarks, and he said, well, we'll not have a formal altar call. However, and he said, everyone who is willing to support the building of bridges between the racial divide in our community, stand up. Well, there wasn't anybody in that audience, they were there because they weren't willing to do that. So we all stood up, and we all held hands, and we all sang I Surrender All. And I thought, and even if he had done a traditional altar call, you know what? I would have gone forward, because when I was young, and the minister would do this, and I would really want to do that, and I would say, but I don't want to be crucified. I don't want to be crucified. Now I can do that and go, no, that's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. So when I thought, that whole process, that whole service was this internal translation without even thinking about the process. So I'm really hoping that you all have opportunities to really to see about that. And it also reminded me, so several years ago when I was working in Southeast Virginia, and I'd be in a car for a long time with one of my people that I was supervising, and we'd get into these long, involved spiritual discussions. We'd have the best time, and she came from a very, very traditional, fundamental process, and I'm coming from my unity process. We had no problems at all in our discussions, because we knew, I could translate, so I was basically the one that was doing the translating for myself, that what she was saying, and we were going the same place. We were really interested in making that connection. So having that divine translation without getting caught up in the words. And then I went back even further. So right after I've been in Unity, several months, long enough to know, yeah, this is really my place. But, as you do that, sometimes there's still, you don't think about it, but when something happens, you go, oh yeah. So I'm working, the office I was working in at that time, the oldest son of the owners came in to see his dad, and his dad wasn't there, so he came into the office to talk to me. And so Tim was, 21, 22, and he'd been a pretty wild teenager, and he had just recently started going to Liberty Bible College, which is on the outskirts. Is Liberty Bible College still there, Ramona, do you know? So very, very fundamentalist Bible college, and he was just thrilled with everything that he was learning. And so here's this 22-year-old sitting there just sharing all of all of this from the very fundamental processes, and here am I sitting, with my whole unity process with, going someplace very different, coming a lot from where he was coming from, but having let all that go. And I was so comfortable letting Tim talk from his heart without any need for me to engage or to comment. And I went, I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place. When we know we're in the right place for ourselves, there's the desire to engage with somebody else, say, oh, well, have you thought about it this way? Now, a lot of you are going to look at me and say, Carol, you say that to us all the time. But that's because we're kind of in the same place. We're moving around, and that's part of what we're learning is how do I begin to see something a little bit differently than what I have been. But when somebody's coming to us from a very different place, to be able to be very comfortable that they're where they are and that we are where we are. So when we think about this translation, so we're considering language and communication. That's what translation is all about. When we consider prayer, we're also considering language and communication. Prayer is communication with the divine allness of our own understanding. That divine of our own understanding, which shifts and grows and develops over time. So it comes in many different ways in our experience. So I'm going to share with you something now. So it's a poem written by Rebecca Oxford. So in its entirety, it's very, very, very long. She gave me permission to use it and to be able to pull parts out of it that I felt would, keep the poem. Well, she didn't say all that. She just gave me permission to use parts of it. We'll put it that way. And it's a story in its entirety. It is about herself as a 5-year-old who contracted polio and is very sure that she's not going to live to be 6. And it takes her to the person that she is today with that ongoing physical, mental, and spiritual connectedness that she still deeply, deeply has with that 5-year-old. So as she was writing this, and she wrote it at least a couple of years ago, it's been that long since she shared it with me, and she didn't write it as a prayer. In fact, she didn't even think about it as a prayer until we were talking together at one point in time, and she asked if she could share this poem with me, and when she got done, I said, that's the most amazing prayer I have ever heard. And, she went, so I want you to think in this whole translation, what is prayer? So listen to these words, very, very deeply coming from the heart. I see an image of Jesus upon the cross. His soul floats out of him and up into the heavens. It goes to the warm heart of God. It rests there, all contented and snug. Things were different for me. My trauma was early. At the age of 5, I encountered polio. At that sweet age, the world crashed in on me like the facets of a dying diamond. I lost my soul in the chaos. Some insensate sense said that for me, this child, newly in kindergarten and desperate for her daddy to return from sea, dying was in the cards. Dying by paralysis and asphyxiation. I did not know those words that were whispered by the nurses, but I guessed the meaning. I was going away and not coming back. I was being dragged into the dark. I was sliding into the swamp. I would not have a 6th birthday. I would not go back to school. I had just read my last book. I would never see Daddy again. And why all this? Because I pulled my sister's hair too much. something happened to my soul when I was in the oxygen tent. My soul floated up and out and floundered like a baby whale upon a distant cloud. It's still there, not too comfortably nesting. Imagine that. I'm still alive, but with no soul. The cloud and my precious soul hover in the darkening dusk. Heaven is nowhere in sight. My soul does not rest in the warm heart of God. It does not really rest at all. Without my soul inside, my body feels a void, a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. I abhor my vacuum, my void. I abhor my body with its shiny black void inside. My soul keeps floundering on the fifth cloud from nowhere. My soul, that beached baby whale, lives on the cloud of unknowing, where it does not grasp how to help me gain ballast in any other way besides food. My soul lies there in its discomfort and meditates. It flails one flipper down in my body's direction, but it does not know how to return to fill my inner void. I mean, think about coming from the heart. Now think about what prayer is. You know, and she was not asking for anything. She was saying, here is where I am. This is where my heart is. Not even thinking about she was communicating in any way with the divine. But where is the divine? The divine is in here. The divine hears. And the divine responds from within ourselves. So I want you, to think about when do you write? Some of you have been doing morning pages from the Artist Way. You do other writing. I know we have some other people who write, who do stories. To think about, this is communication. This is communication. And it's only been translated through my own heart.
Carol,
If I cry.
Carol, could I add something?
Uh-huh.
Rebecca was in an iron lung,
Yes.
and she prayed to the God of the iron lung.
And if she will give permission, and so I will ask her, first of all, she didn't even think this was worth being shared with anybody. She was very hesitant to share it with me the first time. So we have talked over time, and for her to give me permission to do this. And it is a much, much longer poem. It's really, a really long poem, it tells a whole
An opus.
an epic poem that I would really like to be able to print it out and share it with y'all, because she's talking about a very specific incidents of this polio and what she went through, but how all of that informs who she is now and how we are all still connected to those parts of us that from a very young age, and how we begin to maybe shift our perspective on that process. So, I'd like to be able to share that process with you. But as we move along into this idea of translation, and remember last week, so you got all of these different translations of the Lord's Prayer, but and we're doing it also on Wednesday night, and what we have to realize is, first of all of those different translations I handed out, those were people just translating. They were translating some from various languages, some from the Aramaic, but they were not intending to put their own heartfelt connection in there. They're translating. They're bringing those words as best they can to your awareness. So what I want to share with you is the author of the book that we're using on Sunday morning, How to Pray Without Talking to God. And Reverend Martella Whitsitt, she's done a translation from her own heart for herself. And so I'm going to close with reading this for you and for you to think about. Now, this is probably incredibly meaningful to many people as they read this and experience it. That's not why she wrote it. She wasn't writing it to provide something meaningful to other people. She was writing this from her heart. And I want you to realize you get to do that too. You get to write, to speak, to think, to feel that communication process from your own heart. You don't have to use somebody else's translation. In any of these translations, any of the things we go through, they are opportunities for us to grow and to expand and to see things. We get to make the translation that is meaningful to us. So let me read this. So this is a prayer. Go within and listen. The light of the world shines within me, outside me, and all around me. Looking to the light, I am led by the light. I reflect the light in my innermost thoughts, as well as my outermost actions. Every day, every good comes my way. The light I am keeps me from being caught up in superficial or material matters. I am freed from being out of rhythm with my divine identity. From the one source comes the vision and the energy to bring forth the vision and the harmony of this manifested vision with all of creation. This is the foundation from which I take my next step. Amen. So you are gaining the tools to make your own translation. So use them, and so it is.